Amanda. Welcome to the Crush the Rush podcast, but also welcome to the Capture Your Confidence podcast, because today is such a special day. We're doing a dual episode with Stephanie Handa and Amanda Goetz and digging into all of the things about what having it all really means and having just an honest conversation about ambition and what that looks like today. So welcome, ladies. Stephanie, do you want to introduce yourself? And then Amanda, we'll get to you.
Sure. Yes, this is exciting. So I co-host the Capture Your Confidence podcast with Whitney Abraham. So Whitney couldn't be with us today, but I am here for the team. Happy to be part of this interview, and we will air this on our podcast as well.
And Amanda,
I'm here for the efficiency. Like, this is amazing. This only women would be like, we can do two at once. Like,
I know,
yeah, right?
I know, but I have to tell this story because I feel like this is like how we all got connected. So I'm in like a mastermind type program, and I had a friend reach out to me, and she was like, "Holly, isn't this the bookstore that you're obsessed with in Columbus?" Because I go there all the time. I take my girls there, and I'm like, "Yeah," and she was like, Amanda's going to be there and she's coming out with a new book, and I think you should go. This would be really fun. So I like introduced all my clients and I was like, let's sign up. Let's go to this book thing. Long story short, I reached out to Amanda. I had no idea that you were taking over the Girlboss podcast and all these fun things that have happened, but it's really cool to just have this like organic introduction and then it lead to this like really cool conversation.
Yeah, I know. I'm so bummed that the government shutdown led us to having to postpone that event, but I will be back in Columbus very soon.
Yes, yes. Okay, so we're going to dig right in. One of the questions that I love to ask is, what does building a life first business mean to you right now?
That's a great question. So a life first business. I think when I look at my calendar, most people and most of my coaching clients, they put work in first, and then they try to squeeze everything else around. I do the opposite. I know what my non-negotiables are in a day. I have to move my body. Like literally, I just came from Pilates. So I have to move my body, non-negotiable. I have to have time with my kids. That's quality time and presence time, not multitasking with Slack and email. I have to have time with my partner, and I have to have time with myself. If I don't have those four things, I don't function well. I don't sleep well. I feel disconnected from myself and my body. And so work shuffles into the slots that are remaining. And the cool thing about every research study and anything I've studied in my 20-year career about productivity is work will shrink to the amount of time you give it. And so if you have an hour to get a deck done and that's it, it'll take you an hour. You're going to increase your focus to get it done. So I have learned that over kind of the course of my career and in college, because I had 4 jobs in college. And it's true. Every time I'm like, okay, I have one thing to get done and I have an hour. I'm going to get that big thing done. And so that's to me what a life first business looks like.
I love that. And this notion that your work can expand and shrink with the parameters that you set for it is like so powerful, because like you're in control. And I think back to times when if I would have let something take 2 to 4 hours, it would have consumed that whole time. But if I just gave it an hour, I would still get a finished product at the end of the hour. So that's a really cool visual.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does. It's Parkinson's law, where you will increase your amount of effort and intensity for the amount of time. And I learned this like I started my career at a Big 4 accounting firm, and it was so like, wait until the partner leaves before you can leave. So you're still just sitting at your desk, twiddling and like maybe working on a spreadsheet or whatever. And I'm like, I was done with my work at like 4 p.m. And this is like, I don't know if you guys saw that article about like, did women ruin the workplace? And it's like, this is what women are actually teaching the workplace, that we should reward efficiency. We should reward expertise. Like if I have a consulting client right now that needs to charge billable hours. And I am just like, every time they're asking me for my hours, I'm like, why does that matter?
Yeah.
Like, if it took me 2 hours to do the thing that it took someone else 10 hours to do, I should be rewarded for that, not docked in pay.
Yeah. That's I'm having like consulting flashbacks. I also started in the big four, and I can like picture sitting at my desk, like, can I go yet? I mean, I did what I needed to do. Like, how much are we going to do today? And so I think that's such an interesting concept of managing your time and how you fit it in. I want to talk a little bit about your experience because you have so much. So you've been a CMO, a founder, podcast host, mom. And one of the things that you talk about in your book is you realize you were building this like version of success, which really didn't feel like you anymore. And so I'm curious, like, how you knew that maybe something needed to change, or that how you were going along in life maybe needed to pivot.
Yeah. Well, I'll share a quick story that I put into the book, which is kind of the origin of the whole framework that I teach in the book. So it was kind of a, I guess, typical day in my life, but typical at that time. I was leading marketing for a public company in New York City. I had 3 kids under the age of 4, and I was going through a divorce. And I remember, okay, I get up, I get the kids ready, nanny comes to watch the baby. I take the 2 kids to their preschools, and I get on the subway, I get down to my office, and I'm running from pumping room to leading editorial and product marketing meetings and all of the things, and then leaving work like 4:50 on the dot so I could get home, spend some time with my babies before they go to sleep, because babies go to sleep so early. And I get through the night of like bathing the kids, feeding the kids, getting the kids down by myself. And I'm rocking my son to sleep. And I took out my phone and I wrote the phrase, "You can have it all." And I was like, where is the friction coming from? And I realized it was actually the you, because the work version of me was finally feeling confident in her like career and her ability to like lead meetings. She doesn't want to leave meetings early to have to go pump and plan that out and leave work early. She feels like she's missing opportunities and things. So when I looked at her in a vacuum, I was like, I had empathy for her. But then when I looked at the mom version of me in a vacuum, she doesn't want to miss the swim class that happened that day. She doesn't want to log back in. And then there was like this version of me that was now wanting to explore like my independence and what that looked like and being on my own. Then there was a version of me that was like wanting to eventually find love again and be in a partnership and have a beautiful relationship. So I started to realize this fallacy of finding alignment wasn't working for me. And that ambition is usually a word reserved for just the work version of ourselves. And I had to start to honor that different parts of me also needed to honor their ambition. There is a part of me now, I'm getting married again next year after 8 years of being a single mom. And there's a part of me that is ambitious in my marriage. I want to have an amazing marriage. And there's a part of me that wants to be an ambitious mom. Like, I want to figure out how I can show up for the 5th grade field trip to Universal Studios, which I'm so slightly dreading. But
I mean, that's kind of an amazing field trip.
I know.
People in Ohio.
I know.
We got a zoo up here.
Yeah.
Apparently, the bus breaks down every year. Like, it's like a curse on, I don't know, but they've warned us that like bring snacks. Like it anyway.
Oh my gosh.
But this idea that I had to break myself from thinking that success was one dimensional, and that the only way that I would feel happy about quote unquote my success was tied to work output, like what titles I had, what salary increase I was getting next, whatever, right? And that really broke it open for me, because now I can be more intentional in honoring of the seasons where the work version of me may take a back seat. Or in the book, I talk about the stovetop of life. And sometimes work goes to the back burner. I shared yesterday on social media, like the last 6 weeks of my life were really shiny. My CEO character was, we launched the Girlboss podcast. My book hit the bestseller list. And like I was running around like Times Square billboard and all the things, right? Very shiny. And I kept reminding people that come November, it's not going to look like this, because CEO version of me is going to the back burner. What did I do yesterday? 7:30 a.m. I was at the eye doctor with my daughter. And then 7:30 p.m. I'm at gymnastics waiting for my daughter. Like, it was back into my mom mode is now on the front burner for the next 6 weeks. So it's this idea of the seasonality of ambition, and also the honoring that ambition is no longer one dimensional.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
I love that. And I love that this redefining this having it all is possible, right? I mean, you do get to have both. Like so many of us get to have both or it all. You just are not doing it all in the same 24 hours. And to give it that space is, it's very light bulb moment for a lot of people. Like, oh, I get to do both. I just don't do them in the same exact moment.
And the thing we have to ask ourselves is, what's stopping us, or what's causing so much guilt? Right? Because what happens, and I'll share, like I had a mom friend when I was like about to go on book tour, and I was like, yeah, I'm gone for the next 6 weeks. I was coming home on the weekends to see the kids, but I was gone for 6 weeks. And she was like, I could never be away from my kids that long. And I was like, first of all, in saying that, you are injecting shame towards me, which I gladly will not take and deflect, because this is my choice and my intentionality and in my season. But it's this idea that we have to honor what we are prioritizing in a season, and that we can't be all of those things at once. And the reason I wrote this book in honoring character theory is this operating rhythm that we have to have in our life, where we audit to see which characters are actually screaming for a little more attention. Mm-hmm. And then you shift. There will be seasons of life where finding your sexuality feels really hard. And maybe you only have 20% to give. But what I talk about in the book is like, if you really only have 20% to give to a character, and you actually gave that 20%, what would that look like? And I talk about, like, for my goddess character, if I'm really in CEO mode, it's hard for me to get into goddess character. Or if I'm really in mom mode, it's really hard for me to get into goddess character. So 2 things need to be on the table. The first is, I need to honor transition sequences between these characters that are usually very oppositional. Like anything that's like, I joke all the time that like my goddess character hates kids. Like if I want my goddess character to get some screen time, all kids need to be out of the movie scene. Like I can't see them. I can't know that I have them. Like they need to be out of the screen. And so we create a transition sequence. And so that's number 1, transition sequence. The number 2 thing is, what does 20% look like? And where is that enoughness line? So for my goddess character, that looks like if my partner wants to hug and kiss me, I'm not rushing it and pulling away, thinking about and I'm not like writing a to-do list while he's hugging me. I'm like actually like, oh, like this feels nice. Like, oh, like he smells so good, or whatever it is. And that may be all I can give to that character that day, but I at least gave that to her. And I talk through that with all of the characters, like finding a transition sequence to create the space, and then also finding your enoughness line, because every character can't be at full volume every day, all the time. And that's okay.
Yeah, I love this. I actually have been reading your book in my new sauna, which I have to say has been like an amazing experience every morning. And I just went through like the whole characters, and I actually had to read that chapter a couple of times to like understand the characters. And I'm super curious, how do you navigate through different characters during the day? Because I feel like a lot of my clients struggle with going from like parent to boss to, insert a super confident role to maybe a more like softer role, and like going in between it in like, a 2-hour period.
First and foremost, I don't allow myself to really let two characters coexist at one time. There is always a hierarchy. So I'll give you a prime example. Yesterday, no school for my kids, and I had a full work day because I work from home. I took it hour by hour, and I said, what's the hierarchy for this hour? I'm either in work mode or I'm in mom mode. Mm-hmm. And if I'm in work mode, that means that if the kids need something, I'm going to be more direct and sharp. I'm not soft mom. And I've also communicated that to them. Hey, I'm working for the next hour. I'm putting an Alexa timer on. And if you need me before then, I'm in work mode. You're going to get short answers. If you need me to put the PlayStation code in, like I'm coming out, I'm doing it. I'm like coming back, right? But then I reassess the next hour and I say, okay, I don't have meetings for the next hour. I'm going to allow mom mode to prioritize, and I'm going to get out a different game, and I'm going to set it up for them, and I'm going to play with them a little bit. So for kind of all of that to be said, permission to create priority and hierarchy is important. Second, it's that transition sequence. There's a whole chapter, you haven't gotten to it yet if you just met the characters, called The Art of Transition. It's ART, awareness, ritual, transition. So awareness of the character you're currently in and the character you want to step into, whether that's you're in mom mode and you're trying to get into CEO mode, or you're in CEO mode and you want to get into your inner doctor and go to the gym. And if you don't create a transition sequence, most people, if you go straight from work mode to the gym, what ends up happening? You're checking your email while you're at the gym. Mm-hmm. You're looking at the Slack messages. You're thinking about something, and you're not getting a good workout in. I had somebody send me a message the other day that said she implemented some of these strategies, and she has been going to the same like F45 workout for years. She's like, I've never been sore. This week I focused and I actually focused. She's like, I'm so sore. And I'm like, yes, it's about quality over quantity. Mm-hmm. If you only have 45 minutes to go to the gym, but you push yourself for 45 minutes, that's all you need. But most of the time we let these other characters hijack that time. So ritual, so awareness, then ritual. The ritual is this Pavlovian thing that you create, the sequence that signals to yourself and to everybody else that you're going to be in this next character. So for me to go to the gym, I do my deep work usually in the morning, and then I'm like 5:30 to 7, I do some deep work. I do like a big to do. And then I'm in mom mode, like get the hair brushed, hair in, make sure everybody's fed. We lay out clothes the night before, but everybody's dressed and then out the door. Then I go into workout mode, and that's my transition. I listen to the same song every single time, and I go and grab an energy drink, and it's like the ritual of hearing that song and letting that caffeine hit me. It's like I'm in my workout mode now. And I say the last piece is T. So ART. T is transition. You literally say to yourself or out loud, for the next 45 minutes, this character is on the screen and no one else is going to hijack that time. And guess what? Like when you actually focus and finish and give, like, even if that's just an hour to your kids, but it's 1 hour of really silly playtime, you hit that enoughness line where you're like, okay, I did the things today. I didn't have to try to be everything to everyone all the time. But for that 45 minutes, I was sitting on the floor playing with my son and I wasn't distracted. I connected with him. I felt good about that. And that was enough for today. So that's the whole kind of art of transition that is really important to navigate the ebb and flow throughout the day.
Yeah. So we have to know, what's the workout song?
It's Alicia Keys. This Girl Is on Fire. Like, it's so cliche, but there's something about that, like, that gets me like into it. So yeah.
Yeah. I love that. And it feels fun, right? So the transition is like a fun moment, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. I am having a flashback to a really stressful time in my life. And the thing that my therapist worked on with me the most was the transition from leaving the workday to going to be with my kids. Because we identified, I was like, it's so annoying to go pick them up. Like, I don't even understand. Like, I should be so happy to see them. And I'm like very irritated. And we spent a lot of time on that. And so to hear it now, 8 years later, I'm like, oh yeah, that's actually what I'm doing now by habit. But what a difference it makes.
Yeah. During COVID, I started this whole trend called the commute bath, where if you were working from home, you take a commute bath. And we all were like, okay, we're going to go. And I would tell my kids, I'm going to go become a mommy. And they knew that until I took that bath, I was not a mommy. I was not in mom mode. I was in a work mode that happened to have children around her. But if I wanted to go become a mommy and soften, and so now even still, like, if you don't allow that transition sequence and you go straight into pickup and then pick up right into snacks and homework, you are in your assertive, aggressive manner that is like our work selves. And I know for me, like, the days that I allow myself that commute bath before I go get into the car and pick them up, and I'll listen to like 90s hip hop, like something that gets me like fun and like kind of like a fun car ride vibe.
Yeah.
That's when I like connect with my kids in the car versus like, can everyone shut up? I'm like trying to look at an email, you know?
I love this. I feel like when I left my corporate job, the commute was actually something that I missed the most. And I think it surprised me the most because I always said, like, I don't want to have a commute. I want to wear my sweatpants and like work from home, but I didn't have that transition. And so I had to figure out, like, what is that for me? I set an alarm before my girls get off the bus and I like just go do something. Usually it's like a chore around the house. Like right now it's like taking down pumpkins and like putting up Christmas. It's like something that's not work related, just like switch my brain over, because I find if I go straight to the bus stop that it's bad. It just is, it ends bad.
Yeah. Because they can feel our energy.
Yeah.
I love that one. That's a great one. Like just going to do something in your house that feels like a little bit more in your caregiver mode. I'm taking care of my house right now and I'm getting it ready for the kids. Like that is a great transition sequence.
Yeah. I love that. Okay. I want to talk about fun and ambition. So joy and ambition coexisting. I mean, I feel like you need to make a playlist after we've had this conversation. But what's something that you do now to make sure that like joy doesn't get lost in sort of the ambition and the growth that you want to have?
It's important to understand that each of our characters serves different needs. And depending on the season of life, some characters serve more needs and some deplete more needs. So I'll give a very clear example. Like your CEO character sometimes actually meets the needs of your inner creative, the part of you that wants to create and like do something. And sometimes your CEO character starves that character, right? Your creative character. And you're like, work is depleting me. I feel so not creative. I'm not, especially me, I'm a brand marketer. So like and now a writer, I need to create, like I need to feel like I am incepting something. And for me, it's about this audit that I do every single month to say which characters are meeting the needs of joy and levity and fun and which are depleting it. And most of the time I find that when I feel like joy is slowly like being lost, it's because I've haven't made space for the characters that make that more accessible. Sometimes my mom character brings me joy, but sometimes it depletes it. Right. And like, let's be honest, like sometimes it does. Sometimes I feel like really connected to my kids. And I was like, that was a fun day. And other times I'm like, holy shit, what just happened? Right. So I have a couple of rituals that I do and I build into my operating rhythm, and I talk very openly about it. I am a fairly like health and wellness, as a former ACE certified trainer. I was an athlete my whole life. Like I take care of myself. But once a quarter, I get drunk on tequila with my girlfriends and I go dancing, and I'm hungover for a day or two. And that meets my need of feeling like young and fun and silly and like not having a lot of responsibilities. And we have stories from that night that I can kind of like feed me for the next couple of months. You know, I'm like, oh, that night, that was so crazy. That was funny. And remember, we got pizza at like 3 a.m, like whatever. Right. And those are the things that I think we lose along the way in the seriousness of life. And you have to be intentional about it, because if you're not, if you're waiting for someone to plan a night out, I don't wait. I plan it. Like, I'm just like, I know I need this. And chances are, so do my other friends. And yeah, so we have some staple things that happen throughout the year that I look forward to. We do an annual trip every October, upstate New York. We do a girls' vacation every summer. And then I do a solo trip every year. So I at least know I have these kind of like 3 anchor moments that I can like check in with myself. But then in the day to day, you look at the other characters, like my soloist, the solo character, she's kind of my gateway character to kind of levity and joy. When I have some time to kind of reground myself, I can usually access like more fun and levity and joy, or pleasure and play with my partner. So I need solo time. And so when I allow her to get more space in the day and I don't run everything up back to back to each other, I usually feel a little bit more levity in these other characters.
Yeah. I love how you called them anchors. I think that's something we talk a lot about, quarterly planning and planning life first on our podcast. And I love like just having those anchors first, I think really helps you, transition into what you want to do.
Yeah. I literally go through this exercise in the book because I'm a CMO and I have to create marketing calendars all the time. And when I look at next year, marketing calendar, what are our biggest beats? What are the things that aren't going to be moved? And then what are the little beats that are going to like increase, sales or whatever? We have to look at our life in this similar manner and say, okay, what are our bigger moments next year? Usually it's like vacation, right? But like, what are the mini things? Like, what is the intentional 1 weekend a quarter that you are going to be by yourself and you have if you have a co-parent and you're, raising kids together, what's your weekend that you're going to say, you have the kids, I'm gone? And if you think to yourself, oh, my partner could never, or I could never, that's when you start to say, what script are you reading from? Who gave you that script? Because it's not adult version of you. Adult version of you would be like, you can definitely leave for 48 hours. Like that other person is fully capable of making sure that the kids stay alive for 48 hours. But like, you might be reading from another script that like maybe your family gave you or society gave you or your culture gave you that makes you feel so much shame and guilt for leaving your kids. I had a woman recently say to me, I hate being with my kids on Mother's Day. And so I leave. And it was so funny because my first reaction was like, oh, how could you like, and then I was like, oh, that's not my script. Like, she's making her own script. And that's awesome. That is what this should be about. Whatever works for you. And she was also like, on my birthday, I also leave. Like, I don't want to spend my birthday doing things that the kids plan for me, because that usually is like a trampoline park. And I don't want to be at a trampoline park on my birthday. So I leave. And I'm like, I love this. And we need to have more of this energy of like, do whatever works for you and is giving you the ability to meet those other versions of yourself.
Yes. And so our podcast is, of course, based in confidence. And so we talk a lot about this notion that if you can catch yourself in that judgment making and then learn to just trust yourself and kind of focus on what your own self-trust, right? Like that is the root of confidence. Like the fact that you can hear someone say that, maybe it's not how you would do it, but to still like, you know, lesson release. And that's great for you is a really pivotal point on the confidence journey.
100%. I love that.
Yeah. I want to lead into confidence a little bit more. And one last question before we do rapid fire, and that is imperfection. So I think a lot of times we see, you were talking about like your shiny moments, which are amazing and everyone has them. But then there's other things behind the scenes, which maybe are not so perfect or are not 100%. And one of the things that I say is like B- is passing, which sometimes is hard for me, but it's okay. Like we could still all get through with B's, even a C+ is okay, right? And so I'm curious how you've applied that in some of the things that you're doing now.
Yeah, this is the minimally viable day that I write about, which is that whole phrase, like if you have 20% to give and you give 20%, then you gave 100%. I have gotten really comfortable with a 40% mom on a day or a 60% CEO on another day and a 10% partner on one day, but then an 80% partner the next day. And I'm like, if I can average out in the month to be like a B in each character, I'll feel good, right?
Yeah.
So I truly think we're in this kind of guilt and shame epidemic for ourselves, which is, oh, I didn't give 100% to that person in my life today. I'm a failure, or I wasn't available every time they emailed me, or I missed that email. It's truly like the only person creating that narrative is ourselves. We're falling into these traps of ambition that are usually rooted in people pleasing and a need for validation. And Stephanie, you just said, it's like when you can get really comfortable in knowing your intentions and your values and your roots, you don't feel that guilt and shame because you're like, I know that I trust myself to not let 4 days in a week go by where I'm giving 20% to my mom character. I trust myself. So that means if today I am a shittier mom, like you know those days where the kids come home, you're like barely paying attention, you give them dinner, but you're multitasking and you don't eat dinner with them. And then you turn on the TV and then you just get them into the bed. Like, I don't shame myself because I know the next night I'm not going to let that happen again. Or if it does happen again, I have to really check in with myself to say what's going on. But I have enough awareness and these tools to create this kind of like director level view of my life to say, that character keeps taking over. Like, let's talk about rest for a second. How many people, one of the characters I talk about is the lazy character. And people will be like, oh yeah, last night I was so lazy. I was like, let's talk about that. What did you do? Because your lazy character, when you meet the lazy character in the book, their goal is to give you emotional rest, cognitive rest, sensory rest. And they're like, well, I just scrolled TikTok and like laid in my bed. And I'm like, I don't know about you, but my TikTok isn't emotionally restful. I'm fired up about patriarchy and like everything that's going on. So that's letting other characters hijack that time. Or somebody was like, oh, I laid on the couch, watched TV, and I ordered groceries and I got a few things done. I'm like, well, that's not cognitive rest. You now had to think about what meals am I making? And I got a plan for those groceries. And we wonder why we're exhausted all of the time. So it's so important to allow yourself that enoughness and to guard these characters that actually serve the needs that help us see that enoughness.
Yeah. I love that. I think the definition of the lazy character was really interesting to me. That's one that I had to read a couple times and I was like, okay, I like this character.
Yeah. I think it's really hard for people because they think that they're allowing themselves to rest and they're not. They're not.
Yeah. I love that. Okay. We're going to ask a couple of fun rapid fire questions. And the first one I'm super excited about. What's one girl boss guest that has surprised you in the best way?
Oh my gosh. I've gotten to interview so many people in the first season that were just like powerhouse. I think Alexa Von Tobel, founder of LearnVest and just like badass woman, it was so cool to see a woman so unapologetic in her ambition and like love of work. And like she was like, I would sleep at my office if I wanted, if I could. Like she loved work. And I think we live in a society right now that is causing us to feel shame for loving hustling and loving pushing and being in that season of life. And it was like really refreshing because I was in a season at that point where I was pushing really hard. And I'm like, we need more women to come out and be like unapologetic about building cool things and going after it at the expense of like maybe some other characters for a little bit. But it was really wonderful to hear that.
I love that. Okay. If you could describe toxic grit in one sentence, how would you do that?
It's hustle without intention. Again, hustle is not inherently bad. It's bad when two things happen. You go after whatever thing you're going after without checkpoints and spin cycles to alleviate the intensity that's building up. And you do it at the expense of other characters in your movie that you desperately need to make the movie of your life one that you want to watch and live.
I love that. Okay, last one. If you could whisper one truth to a previous version of you who
again, Holly.
Thought that she had to earn rest, what would you say to her?
Oh my gosh. Like, chill the fuck out. like, and also rest is part of the process. And I think about this all the time. My very first marathon I ever ran was the New York City Marathon. And I remember pushing myself too hard and skipping rest days because I was like, I will use the rest day to like go lift weights or whatever. And I got hurt. And then I had to take weeks off to do physical therapy. And that put me further behind than just the rest days that were built into the schedule. So you will lose more time in the long run if you don't rest.
Yeah, such good advice. I feel like we could chat forever. There's so many cool stories and questions, and you have so much experience. Tell everyone where they can connect with you, find you, learn more about the book, all the things.
Yeah, I mean, the book is out, available everywhere books are sold. And if you want to hear from me every week, I have a weekly newsletter that goes out every Thursday morning. It's called Life's a Game. And you can find me. I'm spending a lot more time on Instagram these days. I built my following on Twitter, but I have let that go. And so we're now showing up on Instagram a lot more. So I'm just the Amanda Goetz.
I love that. Thank you so much, Amanda.
Yes,
thank you, Stephanie.
thank you.
And this has been so fun.